Welcome to your deep dive on the Haunting of Bly Manor. We've got a real mix of sources here.
Oh, yeah.
Video essays, articles, even some pasted text.
Someone's been busy.
Right. Ready to get a little spooky.
Always.
Okay, so this show, it takes the classic ghost story and, well, it turns it into something else.
Definitely something else.
A meditation on love, loss, memory.
Yeah, what's fascinating to me is how Bly Manor uses the supernatural to examine, well, us.
The human condition.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about jump scares, right?
Right.
It's about how
What?
our past, our relationships, the choices we make, they can linger.
They linger.
And shape who we become.
Even after death.
Even after death.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
And speaking of lingering influences, we can't ignore Henry James.
Oh, the Henry James connection.
Right. Several sources pointed to his work.
Yeah.
Especially the Turn of the Screw, but
it's more than an adaptation.
Right.
It's like the show is, well, I think it's having a conversation with James.
Oh, interesting.
Using his themes, character archetypes, as a springboard.
Okay, I like that.
Like take the Jolly Corner, for instance.
Oh,
that story deals with
what?
A man haunted by, well, by himself, really.
Okay.
A darker version of himself.
Really alter ego.
Exactly.
And that's just like Henry Wingrave in the episode.
Exactly. In the episode of the same name.
Right.
It's a direct parallel.
Totally.
And then there's the beast in the jungle.
Oh, yeah.
Where someone is paralyzed by fear.
Fear of the unknown.
Yeah, like something terrible is about to happen.
About to happen.
That feels very connected to Donnie.
Donnie's whole arc.
Her whole arc. The way she's waiting for the lady in the lake,
Consumed by the fear.
Yes, as if she's resigned to this fate.
That's a good point.
And by using these Jamesian themes, Bly Manor adds depth to the fear, the anticipation. It's not just about the ghosts. It's about the psychological weight.
The weight of what?
Of our own expectations.
Oh, interesting.
The ways we can become prisoners of our anxieties.
Wow, that's a good one.
Thanks.
And then, of course, the romance of certain old clothes.
Oh, yeah.
That lays out Viola's whole backstory.
It does. The Lady of the Lake.
It's all right there.
And it's amazing how the show takes these different elements.
From James's work.
From all over James's work.
Yeah.
And weaves them into this, this tapestry of love, betrayal, and revenge.
I like that tapestry, yeah.
But it's not just the plot points. It's also about capturing that
what?
That feeling, that Jamesian sensibility, the doomed romances, the twists of fate, that lingering sense of unease.
Right, like something's not quite right.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've established that Bly Manor is drawing from this literary tradition, but
how does that impact?
Yeah, how does that impact?
The way we see the show's themes.
Love, loss, memory.
Right. Love, loss, and memory. Well, by invoking James, it adds ambiguity.
Ambiguity.
And complexity.
Okay.
James was a master of unreliable narrator.
Oh, yeah.
And Bly Manor plays with that.
Plays with it how?
Brilliantly. It makes us question what's real, what's imagined, How much are our perceptions?
Coloring the events.
Coloring everything.
That's a good point. And that ambiguity extends to the ghosts themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not your typical vengeful spirits.
No, they're more like
like what?
Echoes of the past, drafted by their own memories and emotions.
Yeah, like they're not fully formed.
Exactly. And that brings us to the heart of Bly Manor.
The heart of it.
It's not about the ghosts, really.
It's about
how our pasts, our relationships, the choices we make, they linger.
They linger.
And shape who we are.
Even after death.
Even after death.
And that's where the gravity well comes in, right?
Yes. This idea that Viola, the Lady at the Lake, creates this vortex.
A psychic vortex.
Yeah, that traps the other spirits.
At Bly Manor.
At Bly Manor. And what's compelling is it links the supernatural to the emotional.
Oh, interesting.
It's her rage, her longing, her refusal to let go that literally creates this force field that prevents the ghosts from moving on.
It's like their souls are literally weighed down.
Yes. Weighed down by their emotional baggage.
By their pasts.
Their pasts.
Wow.
And this idea of being tethered to our past, unable to escape.
The weight of our memories.
The weight of it all.
And emotion.
And runs throughout the entire show.
That's a good point.
And this theme, this being trapped by the past.
Yeah.
It's reflected in how the ghosts fade, too.
They
fade. This idea of tucking away.
Tucking away.
And losing themselves.
Losing themselves.
As they get lost in memory.
Specific memories.
Yes. And visually we see it in their faces.
What happens to their faces?
They smooth over.
Smooth over?
Becoming blank slates.
Blank slates.
Devoid of features.
That's creepy.
It is creepy, but also...
But also what?
Kind of a metaphor. For how our memories can sustain and destroy us.
Even after death.
Even after death. And this fading process.
Yeah.
It's not peaceful.
What is it like?
It's like a spiritual decay.
Oh, wow.
Gradual erosion.
Of the self.
Of the self, yeah.
It makes you think about how we hold on to the past.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Even in death, they're tethered to their experiences.
Break free.
From that emotional gravity, well...
Created by Viola.
By Viola.
And that nightly routine.
Yeah, the routine.
Wandering from the lake to her daughter's room.
Back and forth.
Becomes a blueprint.
For how the other ghosts fade.
They get stuck in those loops.
Yes, reliving memories.
Losing themselves.
Losing themselves, their faces smoothing over.
Just like Viola?
Just like Viola. It's horrifying.
But it's also...
But it's also a reminder that we have a choice.
A choice?
In how we engage with our pasts.
We can dwell on the negative or...
Find ways to integrate those experiences.
Into a cohesive narrative.
Yes. One that lets us move forward.
That's a great point.
Thanks.
And that speaks to the agency.
The agency of the characters.
Living and dead.
Both. Even with the rules, they can make choices.
Choices that shape their destiny.
Yeah.
And that's where consent comes in, right?
Consent.
In possession.
Oh, right. The ghosts can only possess...
Fully possess.
Fully possess, yes. If the person gives permission.
Verbally or emotionally.
It adds another layer to the whole...
To the whole dynamic.
Between the living and the dead.
Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
It's not just about being overtaken by a spirit.
It's about what?
The choices we make, the vulnerabilities we expose.
And how we resist.
Or succumb.
To those forces.
And that idea of consent, you know?
Yeah.
Creates a parallel to human relationships.
Oh, that's interesting. How so? Well, it suggests that even in death, there are boundaries.
Boundaries.
That have to be respected.
Okay.
That free will and autonomy.
They remain important.
Paramount.
Even when dealing with the supernatural.
It's a different take on possession.
Right. It's not just about being taken over.
It's about choices.
Choices.
Vulnerabilities.
How we resist.
Or succumb.
To those external forces.
Exactly.
Okay, so consent in possession.
Yes.
It's like the show is saying that even in our closest relationship.
Our most intimate relationships.
There's this negotiation.
Of power and control.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see that.
And we see that playing out different ways throughout the show.
Oh, yeah.
Like Peter Quint.
Okay, Peter Quint.
He manipulates, coerces others, trying to gain control through...
Through what?
Deception and emotional manipulation.
Right.
Like he does with the children when he tries to convince them.
To become his forever family.
Exactly, that creepy phrase.
Which is so different from Donnie's sacrifice, right?
Oh, absolutely.
She chooses to confront Viola.
Yeah.
To become her vessel. To save Flora.
It's a powerful moment.
It really is.
It's like a subversion of the typical horror trope.
Right. Instead of being a victim, she takes control.
She uses the rules of possession.
To protect those she loves.
And it speaks to the show's exploration of, well...
Of what?
Love, loss, sacrifice.
It's not just about romantic love, either.
No, not at all.
We see those themes in Owen's story.
Oh, Owen.
Her caring for his mother with dementia.
He talks about that pain of watching someone slowly disappear while they're still alive.
It's a different kind of haunting.
Absolutely. It's like this gradual loss.
Loss of what?
Of someone's identity, you know.
Your memory's fading.
Like smoke.
And it highlights a different aspect of memory.
Right.
It's not just about the ghosts being trapped.
It's about how memory itself
is to be both.
Both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It sustains us, connects us.
To loved ones.
But it can also bring pain and regret.
And then there's Jamie. Who knows that Donnie's
being consumed by Viola.
Right. But she chooses denial.
Denial over acceptance.
It's the defense mechanism, isn't it?
It is.
To protect herself from that pain.
From losing Donnie.
And it shows us the different ways.
We all cope with grief.
Some confront it.
Others avoid it, deny it.
There's no right way.
No, it's a personal process.
And Bly Manor doesn't shy away from that.
It shows those different responses.
The messy emotions.
The conflicting desires.
The long road to healing.
And acceptance.
And it also reminds us.
It reminds us that even in the darkest times, there's beauty to be found.
Beauty.
In the connections we make.
Yeah.
And in cherishing the present moment.
You know, one thing that struck me about Bly Manor is the visual storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
Those long shots.
The subtle details.
They create this eerie atmosphere.
It's not about jump scares.
It's about this creeping dread
that permeates every frame.
The show's creators really know suspense.
They do, and they use those long takes to draw you into the characters.
To make you feel the weight
of their pasts.
And that sense of anticipation.
Like something's lurking.
Just beneath the surface.
Exactly.
And the color.
The color, yes.
Muted tones, the grays and blues.
Dominating the interiors.
Of Bly Manor.
It creates this feeling of melancholy.
And decay.
Like the house itself is.
With another character.
Reflecting their inner turmoil.
That's a great way to put it.
And then those flashes of color.
Oh, the reds and yellows.
Associated with the children.
And Danny and Jamie.
They contrast with the rest of the palette.
Creating hope amidst the gloom.
And the light and shadow.
Oh, the way they use darkness.
To conceal.
See the presence of the unseen.
And then those bursts of light.
That illuminate their faces.
Revealing their vulnerabilities.
It's a visual language.
That speaks volumes.
About their inner lives.
How they're navigating this haunted landscape.
And those transitions.
Between time periods.
They're so seamless.
Jumping back and forth.
Using those match cuts.
To create this sense of fluidity.
It reinforces the idea.
That the past is always present.
It's like another layer of reality.
Existing alongside the present.
That blurring of boundaries.
It's one of the show's most compelling elements.
It's not just about ghosts.
It's about how our memories.
Our experiences.
The people we've lost.
They shape who we are.
Even as we move forward.
It reminds us that
we are all haunted.
By our pasts.
And those hauntings can be
both beautiful
and terrifying.
A source of pain and inspiration.
And that brings us back to choice.
Choice.
The characters have choices.
Even with the rules.
They can shape their destinies.
Danny chooses to confront her fears.
To sacrifice herself.
To Flora.
Jamie chooses denial.
To cling to the present.
Owen honors his mother's memory.
By caring for her.
And those choices have consequences.
Positive and negative.
Impacting everyone around them.
It's like the show is saying.
Even with ghosts.
Where the past haunts us.
We still have the power to choose.
How we respond.
How we engage with our memories.
How we shape our own lives.
Like a powerful message about agency.
For both the living and the dead.
Even bound by circumstance.
They still have choices.
That shape their destinies.
And that extends to how they remember.
Those they've lost.
Memory is powerful.
It can sustain us, connect us.
But also cause pain and regret.
You know, one thing I found fascinating.
What's that?
Was the show's take on the afterlife.
The afterlife.
We've talked about ghosts trapped by memories.
But it suggests
that the afterlife is shaped by...
By what?
Our actions in life, our choices.
The relationships we forge. It's almost like heaven and hell aren't places.
But states of being.
Created by our internal landscapes.
And the baggage we carry.
Beyond the grave.
We see that in the ghosts.
Okay.
Peter Quint reliving his mother's betrayal.
That pain, the resentment.
His afterlife is torment.
A constant reminder.
Of his traumas and choices.
And then you have Hannah and Rebecca.
Finding peace and connection.
Despite their fates.
They access happy memories.
Reunite with loved ones.
Find purpose in protecting the living.
So how we live.
The choices we make.
Our relationships.
They shape our destinies.
Not just in this life.
But maybe the next.
Okay, we've talked about the rules of haunting.
The Henry James connection.
Memory, the afterlife.
But we haven't discussed.
What haven't we discussed?
Gender and identity.
Oh, right. Bly Manor is more than just a ghost story.
It's a love story.
Danny and Jamie's relationship.
One of the most authentic portrayals
of a lesbian romance
on television.
I agree. The show treats it with such care.
Avoiding those stereotypes.
And gratuitous elements.
That often plague queer representation.
It's refreshing to see
a lesbian couple portrayed
with honesty and depth.
Their love story given weight and significance.
And it's not just the romance.
They're both well developed.
With their own backstories, motivations.
Not defined by their sexuality.
Where love
becomes part of their journeys.
And then there's Hannah.
Hannah Gross.
Her story explores
societal expectation.
Challenges faced by women.
Especially in the 80s.
She's strong, capable.
Devoted her life to others.
But she struggles with loneliness.
Unfulfilled desires.
Her backstory reveals
a failed marriage. A sense of abandonment.
A longing for more.
Beyond Bly Manor.
But she finds strength.
In being the housekeeper.
A maternal figure.
To the children and Donnie.
And the way the show connects her story.
To the supernatural.
It adds another layer.
Those cracks in the walls.
A manifestation of her psyche.
symbolizing how societal pressures
and personal traumas,
can leave lasting scars.
even on the strongest,
It reminds us that appearances deceive,
even those who seem to have it all together.
might be struggling.
We should be compassionate,
Understand.
recognizing everyone's struggles.
Kindness and empathy are essential.
One source called Bly Manor, a romantic drama,
About loss, regret, love, forgiveness.
with supernatural stuff grafted on.
Well, I wouldn't say reluctantly grafted on.
I do think it's a love story at its core.
About the different forms love can take.
Romantic, familial, platonic,
The love between caregivers.
and those they care for.
It's about the sacrifices we make.
The ways love can heal and haunt.
Power of love to transcend death.
We've talked about the visuals.
But we should mention the music.
The soundtrack is incredible
So evocative, perfectly matched,
to each scene,
amplifying the emotions.
enhancing the atmosphere.
Well, speaking of atmosphere,
Bly Manor has a unique brand of horror.
it's not jump scares or gore.
It's more psychological,
Atmospheric.
rooted in their emotional journeys.
It gets under your skin.
It makes you think about what truly frightens us.
Loss, loneliness.
The fear of being forgotten.
Those are the real ghosts.
And there are moments of beauty,
Tenderness.
interwoven with the horror.
Donnie and Jamie's love.
Owen and Hannah's bond.
The children's world within Bly Manor.
Those connections shine,
Against the darkness and loss.
reminding us that life goes on.
There's beauty to be found.
You know, the show plays with reality,
Oh, how so?
blurring the lines between real and imagined,
Past and present.
living and dead.
It makes you question your perceptions.
Consider the possibility
What it means to be alive.
to experience joy and sorrow,
Love and loss.
to leave our mark on the world.
Even if it's just an echo.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Okay, we've covered a lot.
We have
The literary influences, the haunting,
the characters, the visuals.
and the themes.
Before we wrap up,
Yes.
let's circle back to storytelling.
Oh, the frame narrative?
The fireside tale.
A spooky story among friends.
It adds another layer.
It makes us question the narrator.
The nature of truth.
We're reminded that we're hearing this through someone else,
The details might be altered.
embellished over time,
A ghost story within a ghost story.
blurring fact and fiction.
Memory and imagination.
Hmm.
And that ambiguity extends to the ending.
Oh, the ending.
We see Jamie asleep.
With Danny's hand on her shoulder.
But is it real?
Or a dream.
A manifestation of her longing.
It's up to the viewer.
It is.
We bring our own beliefs
Our experiences.
to decide what feels true.
Truth is subjective.
Memories can be unreliable,
Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves
are just as powerful.
as the events themselves
One source said the show's strength,
is in its ambiguity,
embracing the unknown.
leaving us with questions.
It reminds us that not everything.
Can be explained.
There's beauty in the mystery.
The most powerful stories.
Leave us pondering.
The what ifs.
The maybes.
So as we conclude this deep dive,
It's the takeaway.
what lingers in your mind,
For me, it's that love endures.
even in the face of loss?
Even with time passing,
It's hopeful, isn't it?
that death might separate us.
But our bonds transcend,
Time and space.
leaving a mark on our hearts.
And the choices we make,
The love we share
they create a legacy.
that extends beyond our lifetimes.
Beautifully said.
And it reminds us that even in a ghost story,
Life goes on.
we see grief, love, choices
Shaping destinies.
in life and death.
That's what makes Bly Manor more than just horror.
It's about the human condition,
How we connect, the choices we make.
the legacies we leave,
It lingers in your mind.
making you think about your own life.
And the ghosts that shape your journey.
It encourages us to confront our demons,
You embrace our pasts,
to live authentically
even when faced with fear.
and uncertainty.
Speaking of confronting demons,
Oh,
let's dive into the specifics.
the specifics of.
How ghosts work in Bly Manor.
Okay, I'm ready. Oh, yeah, one source actually pointed that out.
Really?
Yeah, so the show, lays out these rules.
The rules for how the ghosts exist.
Yeah, exactly. They can't leave the property.
Right, they're tethered to Bly Manor
Trapped in that gravity well.
by Viola's emotions.
It makes you wonder if our own feelings,
Like our attachments, regrets.
could impact the afterlife.
That's a really interesting thought.
And then there's tucking away
Right, how the ghosts get lost in memories.
and start to fade,
Like they're being consumed by their pasts.
losing themselves in specific moments.
Then their faces become these blank slates.
It's creepy, but also kind of beautiful.
It is, yeah. It speaks to the power of memory.
How it can sustain us, but also imprison us.
even after death.
And it's not just negative memories either.
Oh, right, like Rebecca Jessel.
She gets tucked away into happy memories.
With Peter.
Which seems better, right?
At first, but then those memories become a prison.
Preventing her from moving on.
And facing the truth.
It's like even in death.
We can't escape the consequences.
Of our choices.
Exactly. And then there's consent and possession.
Right. The ghost can only fully possess.
If the person gives permission.
Verbally or emotionally.
It's such a cool twist on the idea of possession.
It really is.
And it makes you think about how we can be haunted.
Haunted by.
By other people.
Not just ghosts.
But the living, too.
The relationships that leave their mark.
For better or worse.
We'd be haunted by those we've lost.
By their choices, their actions.
Shaping our journeys.
And that's Henry Wingrave.
Oh, yeah. Henry.
Consumed by guilt.
Over his affair.
His role in their deaths.
He becomes a recluse.
Hiding from the world.
Unable to forgive himself.
And his isolation makes it worse.
Turning memories into a prison.
Which shows that running from the past
doesn't really work.
True healing means confronting those demons.
Making amends. Forgiving yourself.
Which is what Danny does.
She confronts her fears.
Embraces the unknown.
Makes a sacrifice for peace.
It's so different from Henry.
It highlights the power of love and compassion.
She doesn't shy away.
She faces it head on.
Chooses to make a difference.
Even if it means sacrifice.
You know, one source said that Bly Manor is less scary than Hill House.
I think there's a different kind of horror.
Right. It's not jump scares.
It's more psychological, atmospheric.
Rooted in their emotions.
It's subtler, but it lingers.
Makes you think about loss, identity.
The fear of being forgotten.
The real ghosts.
And there's beauty, too.
Those moments of tenderness.
Danny and Jamie. Owen and Hannah.
The children in their world.
Those connections shine.
Amidst the darkness.
Reminding us that life goes on.
There's beauty to be found.
The show plays with reality.
He does, right?
Blurring what's real and imagined.
Past and present, living and dead.
It makes you question your own perceptions.
What it means to be alive.
To feel joy and sorrow, love and loss.
To leave our mark.
Even if it's just an echo.
So well said.
Thanks.
It's time to wrap up our deep dive.
Into The Haunting of Bly Manor.
I hope this gave you a new perspective.
On the show. On your own life.
The ghosts that haunt you.
The choices you make.
Maybe it sparked a curiosity.
To revisit the show.
Notice those details.
Hidden layers.
There's always more to uncover.
More to ponder.
Thanks for joining me.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, remember.
Yes.
The past is never truly gone.
It lives on in our stories.
Our choices and the love we share